you have made two in particular that really put you on a map, like for a lot of people to know
Mm-hmm.
that there are fan films out there that can be made and done in a way that is true to the source material
Yes.
and done very well. The first one was Mega Man.
Yep.
So you're gonna tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man. Mega Man holds a very special place in my heart. Character-wise, like that's like my favorite video game character of all time. I love the lore. I love just the visual style and what the creators tried to achieve with the earlier games, and just how it's just light and fluffy but action-packed. And it's like I categorize it like the Avengers of video games, where it's like the first Avengers was just, it was a fun, good time, but with oomph. And that's how I categorize Mega Man, which is just like the to me like the most well-rounded kind of like video game lore aesthetically. It's just like it's my bag baby. And I still remember the first time playing Mega Man game when I was 4, like one of my earliest memories. And then I would say maybe early 2000s, mid 2000s, I saw someone made a Mega Man fan film, and that's when it clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, a Mega Man fan film. And I still remember, like, I was really impressed with the film, but it wasn't like true to the source material. It took its own liberties. So I'm like, what if I did Mega Man the way that I perceive him as a character, like true to the game, and not, going too far off the rails of what I think a film like that should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2007, 2008 came around, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to do a Mega Man movie. And it was definitely my most ambitious film, because there was going to be so much CG, so many costumes, so many locations, green screen. It was like too much for me to... I went in running, not necessarily thinking anything out. Like, I had my script, I had my plan, but I didn't realize the task at hand and how crazy it would be. And that was it. It was just like my fandom for Mega Man drove me to see it, and seeing that, a Mega Man film can be made.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did it. It's looking back at it, it's like, it's cheesy fun, which
Yeah.
I kind of feel like is what Mega Man should be. Like, you can make it grim dark, you can take it super seriously, but at the end of the day, that's not what Mega Man is. Mega Man walks a fine line, and that's what I tried to do with the movie. And it's interesting. I think like now more people like it now than then. Like, people, like, the reception back when it came out was like pretty positive, but it's like people now kind of going like, oh, it's like almost like at this point that movie is nostalgia, because that movie's like nearly, I think, 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So almost a decade. So it's like I still get messages from people saying, oh, I was like 10 when that movie came out, and I was so amped and so excited, and I watched it so many times. So I'm like, wow, that movie actually meant something to a lot of Mega Man fans, and that's super cool, because it meant so much to me as a creator. So I'm glad it meant something to the people who watched it.
Yeah, definitely. So a production like that, what would the budget be, and how, like, did you go in not knowing that it was probably going to be...
I had no idea how much it was going to cost.
Yeah.
It was whatever money I had and whatever money I can get from my family. I think it was like a 93-minute film. I think it cost us like $6,500 over the course of a year and a half. So it wasn't like the most expensive. So like a few $100 every month. And I did things on the cheap. I was really I did everything myself. I did most of the CG to a point. And then I brought in a whole team of people who just contributed for free. And they're the real heroes, because I can only get it to a point, and they're the ones who took it into the whole other level in terms of creating the 3D characters, creating the renders, animating. So I was good with like compositing and green screen and those types of effects, like particle effects. But then it got to a point where I realized I would have to bring in more people. They contributed their free time. And it was just like everyone was just doing it for free. Everyone. Wow. The actors did, I think the film took like 17 days to shoot it over the course of a year. So it was like every weekend, every other weekend, 1 day or 2 days. And so much hustling, so much repainting of the costumes, so much, like we had nothing. We had nothing to work with except, and it was like a perfect storm, because my two producers on it, Dan and Dave Horowitz, like, their father owned like a tiny electronics factory. So I'm like, okay, so I have a lab that takes care of the like biggest hurdles. We have a lab to shoot in, and the rest was how am I gonna do this action wise or logistically? Like it was like location wise, I knew the locations would fall into place, but it was way too much for a young man such as myself at the time to handle, and I somehow made it through it on $6,500.
That's amazing. It's really cool because it definitely looks to me it was more of a budget. Like it definitely looks like.
Oh, thank you.
More,
That really means a lot.
Yeah, and it's cool that you could do your own CG too. Something I've been trying to learn, and that's not easy.
It's
so
not.
It's awesome.